now that we have all our doors in the line hung up there, now we're ready for the adjustment phase. We're gonna do just as we have been the whole process. We're gonna start left to right, top to bottom. So right now my doors are close to closing. I just basically want to get them so that this reveal is even. So I'm gonna start out by just kind of measuring from here, making sure that these bottom corners are even on the outside. This one needs to be raised a tiny bit. The way we raise the doors or bring them down for our vertical adjustment is with the screws that we put in the eye holes. So this one needs to be raised about a 32nd. So I'm just gonna loosen these screws a little bit.
And this goes back to the reason of only installing one screw to begin with. That way you have room to adjust it up and down.
Raise the door. Check my reveal. So I have the same. Now we close them and we're good right here, but we're touching up here. So we want to bring the top hinges in a little bit and tilt them out. The way you deal with the tilt is with your front screw. This screw right here, if I loosen that, then we went from a gap at the bottom to no gap here. This door just shifted that way. What I want to do is tighten this a little bit and tighten this one up here. Basically just want to work little by little in this phase to get your doors to be where you want them to be. Right.
So
we're getting closer. At this point, they're not touching, but they might rub a slight amount when you close them down. So we're just gonna get up here and tighten both of these just a little bit more. Now we have them on there. Now for the next adjustment, you want the door to sit flush with the face. A good way to do this is by tapping the corners. I tap that corner, nothing happens. I tap this corner, I have a little bit of give there. I have a little bit of space in between the bottom of this door and the face frame. So that is what the back screw is for. These back screws adjust the lean of the door on top of the cabinet. So as I said, this one is loose right there. I'm gonna start by loosening this top screw to the left. That's gonna bring that hinge out a little bit, close it, and now I don't have any give. Same thing over here. I have a little bit up top, so I'm gonna come down and loosen that back screw a little bit. What you wanna do is, if you have the ability, you always wanna start by loosening your screws. If you start by tightening, which I had to do in this area because of how the doors were first starting, the chances are that you could become bound. What I mean by that is if I tighten this hinge too far, then the door doesn't actually close. That's when you know your hinge is bound. A good way to fix that is, if you have to go that amount, if you bring the door out by loosening this back screw, that helps with the problem of getting bound up. I don't have that issue here, so I'll just adjust it back. And then a good way to know if you're all right as far as that adjustment goes is go ahead and step back and look at it from back away. When you step back, that'll give you a good perspective of what it all looks like, what people will be seeing when they come into your kitchen. So now that this door's adjusted, I'm ready to put these second screws in there. We'll go around and do that at the end once all of our doors are adjusted. So as Bob moves on down the line, adjusting them and signing off on them, I'm going to go down the line and do the second screw. You want to make sure that this screw is going in this middle of the opening so that it doesn't shift the base plate. If you shift the base plate at all, then you have to go back and adjust a little bit more, which sometimes that happens because the first screw may not like pull the hinge plate as tight as it can be, and that second screw might snug it up a little bit more. So once I put in the second screw, I want to recheck my doors in all facets to make sure that those base plates didn't shift. So I'm going to close these, check it a little bit. Got a little bit of give up there on top, so I'm just going to loosen that back one just a smidge more. Perfect. We recommend that you do the uppers by eyeballing and measuring, and not as much with a level, unless you want to put the level on your cabinet and match that amount. Like I said, I matched these with the oven, making that a nice straight reveal. We're matching these with the bottom of the cabinet on this particular one. Especially if your crown's going all the way to the ceiling. Ceilings typically aren't straight, so if you try to match it with your crown line, then basically it's not going to line up to anything else. Typically, if your crown doesn't go to the ceiling and you spaced your crown out correctly, then you can take your measurement from the crown and everything should line up. But that another thing that comes in is taking a step back once you're done installing it and really looking at the line to see if it's up to your standards or not. All right, now with the lowers, the defining line is the countertop. Typically counters are level, so you can actually level the doors on there. If you have old counters, especially in a house that's been around a while, your counters may be out of level, and you want to match your doors with your counters. Again, the counters are the defining line, so if your doors and drawer fronts are a different amount of level than your counter is, then it's going to show up in your final product. Right now, Bob's just getting those doors adjusted enough so they can close, and then we'll check the amount of levelness that they have. Check the levelness of the counters versus the levelness of the doors. It lines up exactly, so we're good to go. Just have to second screw these last doors. So I'll come over here, and again, just gonna put the screw right in the middle, and I'm gonna feather it in. Now what I mean by feathering is instead of just taking your screw gun and going full bore, I'm just gonna get it in one thread at a time. Nice and easy. Instead of going full speed. If you go full speed, once you hit the end there, you have a possibility of the screw continuing to spin. Now, if the screw continues to spin, that means the threads are just going to pull out any of the wood that it's holding onto, and therefore your screws aren't going to be actually holding onto the wood. They're just going to be in there, almost floating free. Now that those are nice and snug, close the doors, make sure that our base plates didn't move at all. We have a tiny bit of an adjustment to make right here. Bring it down so that the tops of our doors line up, and that is leveling and adjusting the doors.